start recording?
I got it.
Okay.
Howdy, everyone. It's Leslie Hassler with the Double Your Business Show. It is another bright and shiny Monday afternoon in Texas. That means we have 100-degree temperatures and can't wait for winter. But you know what's funny? It's also the time of year where we're counting down to back to school. And so I met this lovely, lovely lady that you can see if you're joining us live, and maybe just hear in a second if you're listening to us on iTunes. But we met a couple months ago, and I knew she needed to come onto the show. So if you're joining us, this is the first time you've been on the show, you know, Double Your Business is really about you having a strong, healthy business. And the reason I'm so passionate about that is because I believe if I can give you as a business coach a strong and healthy business, then that enables you to have such a strong and healthy family. And that's kind of my short little why behind it all. But today's guest with us is Maria Luce, and you'll see she's always got something to say. We actually were on the phone earlier today, and we will not have a problem talking. And I love in her bio, she talks about that even early on, she got in trouble in school for talking too much. Me too. And it's no surprise. I don't know about you, Maria, but my kids are right there with me. So I know. I'm upset.
It's so payback, isn't it?
It is payback.
It is such payback. And I just want to say, number one, happy Monday, everybody. I am thrilled to be here. Leslie, thank you so much. You and I connected at Women's Leadership Live. And I mean, Leslie just has this amazing spirit and soul about her, but she's very grounded at the same time and has a lot to say, and very efficiently, and you and I connected very much so. And I can't wait to share with everyone the things that you and I talked about even today on the phone, because it was very raw and honest.
It is raw and honest. And I think, you know, here's the key is as entrepreneurs, as women entrepreneurs, if you're one of our guys that loves to listen, I know Christopher is one of our regulars. He's always here supporting us. The thing is that
Hi, Chris.
If we don't share what's going on, what the reality of being an entrepreneur or being a small business is, then we can't learn from it. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that we have is that you can feel so alone as an entrepreneur, and you can feel like such a failure as an entrepreneur when you're just going through the normal course. It's stuff that's going to happen, and guess what? It doesn't just happen to you. It happens to everybody. So I'm excited about today because it's something that we're going to talk about that a lot of people go through, but not a lot of people talk about it. So Maria, just to give our listeners just a little bit of background to who you are, because we're all ready to start talking. You have been a TV host, you've been in the media, you have a PR firm, you have all of these things, but you also have some children in the mix. You want to tell us a little bit about your boys?
Oh, yeah, there's always that part, right? I mean, like I thought at some point it would be, I was a broadcast news anchor and reporter, and, you know, journalism is my background and runs in my blood. It's kind of like my drug, my passion, and we'll talk about passion here in a little bit. But then at a certain point when I was putting career first, I said, you know, it'd be a really good idea to have 3 boys within 21 months. So, woo, yay me. And it is my biggest accomplishment in my life, and I would never change it for anything, although it's very challenging, as we all know, all of y'all know, if you have kids. And so my husband traveled, he still travels, but I had these 3 babies, and so I left my career outside the home and was at home with these 3 infants. And I was told, so you don't work. I mean, think about it. Yeah. What's the first question when you meet somebody? So tell me about yourself. What do you do? Well, I was an anchor. Well, I used to be a reporter. Well, and they said, oh, you're just a mom.
Just a mom. Yep.
Just a mom. And, oh, so you don't do anything. You don't work.
I said, I eat bonbons all day. Thank you very much.
Right. And so honestly, the empowered mom, I never set out to say, I'm going to create a company. It's going to be called The Empowered Mom. It's going to be such a strong brand that so many moms, wives, women can relate to. It was honestly, and Leslie, you and I talked earlier today, and we were just very honest and kind of vulnerable. And I was like, I have to empower myself. So honestly, that's the true story of how The Empowered Mom, it wasn't this grand business plan at the time. We've now navigated our way to that, but it was truly a soul searching. I had to lose my identity and find myself. From there, then we created a brand and a business. I say we, it could be all of my personalities, but it could be my family, because they are a lot. I wouldn't have this journey without them. And Leslie, you know that, right?
I completely identify with that. And there's so much that you say here that I love to bring out. I think with few exceptions, have I not found a single woman who questions their identity when they become a mother. It's like, now what? Now what do I become? How does this work? And I know it was funny. I had my best friend from college, her husband, when she was pregnant, he's like, man, you stare at yourself more often than a prepubescent teenage boy looking for the first facial hair. And I looked at her and I was like, you go back and you tell that man, there's nothing that a man goes through that changes his body so quickly like pregnancy.
Or hormones or identity, chemistry, all of it.
Okay, there's a lot that goes on, and it's a lot to sort out. And I do believe, I didn't grow up as a child that played dolls or played teacher, pretended to be teacher, thought about when I was going to get married, planned my wedding since I was 8, played with baby dolls. I mean, that wasn't who I was, right? I mean, I'm all woman, don't get me wrong, but that's not what I dreamt about. I dreamt about business. I'm sorry, I did.
What? Don't say sorry. But don't say sorry.
That's what's funny. This is the dichotomy of being a woman in business, is that I cannot tell you how often I will receive, that Texas backhand comment about being in business. Oh, well, you just must not be able to. And I'm like, no, I choose to. I'm very clear about what I'm doing. Choose to do what I am doing because it fills my soul. And I have a very complex soul. So that means I do a lot, but I know that I choose it, because I have to be fed on so many different levels. You have some.
Well, you're so right on that. And you said the same thing, because as women, but then as mothers and moms, spouses, single women, wherever you are in that realm, and it's always evolving, we sometimes feel this need to have to defend where we are. Not only that, if we actually take time to nurture our souls or fulfill ourselves or feed us, then sometimes that's seen as selfish, and as opposed to self-nourishing. And that's part of what we have to flip around. And that's part of the thinking. I mean, it's like when you have pots on a stove or a cooktop, if you will, and the one on the back burner doesn't get the attention it needs, so it burns and it's useless. It's like that. We have to realize that we can put ourselves first, not first outside of everyone else. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. We have to take care of ourselves so that we can nurture other people, so that we can take care of our marriages, so that we can take care of ourselves physically, spiritually, mental, financially, and so that we can be the moms that we want to be. And then that's where I think the business comes in, because as we talked earlier, Leslie, it's about, you do kind of have to compartmentalize it and go, where are my priorities? Where do I need to spend my time? And what is going to be most efficient? So it goes back to that 80-20 rule.
Yep, greatest law.
If you're spending so much time on the 80% that isn't the priority, and not giving your focus time to the 20%, then you fall short on 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And then you leave yourself completely disempowered, frankly.
When we were talking earlier today, and there was something that you're passionate up, and it was the title to today's show about
I know. I love this.
Easy ways to make it work. And you were on fire. Why were you on fire about that title?
Okay, so just so everyone knows, here's what happened. All right. And I'm just going to put it out there because I can pretend that I have it all together. I can pretend that as the empowered mom, I have every single answer for you. Here's the reality. I'm going over our notes, and I call Leslie and I say, Leslie, okay, here's the topic. 3 blissfully easy ways for motherhood and business. And I said, it's not blissful, and it's not easy. And there was kind of a pause on the phone. I think she got a little scared. Did you?
I was just like, well, no, here's what it was, is I started checking myself, and we're both having challenging moments in our summer. Yeah. And I was like, no, it's not always easy, although the things you can do are easy, but it's not always easy to do them. And my goal is I want to enjoy both of them. I don't want to feel guilty for any of it. I want to be decadent in loving my life. If that's God, if it's my family, if it's my work, I want to be decadent with it, and I want to enjoy it. And I am a carpe diem kind of gal. On my deathbed, I do not want to be wishing I had.
No. We're going to be that one that the devil says, oh my God, she's awake. but here's the takeaway, is because I have been struggling personally and professionally with putting so many expectations on myself and this perfectionism and giving everything away that I can never measure up to any of it. Now, I say I because that means that many of us, well, I say I because a lot of it's self-imposed, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we're wired.
Yeah.
We want to give back. We want to nurture. We want to take care of. But sometimes it's not blissful, but it can be business oriented. And here's what, and you and I talked about this, Leslie. So if you look at your household, if you looked at what you do on a daily basis, just within your household and your family and taking care of your kids and your spouse and those kind of things, or your own self, right? I shouldn't say we need to include that in there. We are time managers, we're CEOs, we are problem solvers, we are priority, designators.
We're negotiators.
Isn't that the truth? With a 13-year-old and 2 12-year-old boys. Woo, Lord. And they're much better negotiators sometimes than I am. So that's payback. I get it.
Yep, I hear you.
But all of those skills that we use on a daily basis just to manage our lives are skills that as mothers, you transfer to the business world. Don't undersell yourself. And we are experts at doing that first. So I think a lot of the conversations that we have about me, I was feeling, I'm the empowered mom. I was feeling completely disempowered and overwhelmed. And I had to step back and say, okay, what's happening? What am I doing to myself? What are the steps we can take? We being me in the business, me being in my life, except as mom, spouse, et cetera, et cetera. Because just getting caught up in that emotion and that overwhelm does set you up for failure. I'm a master at doing that. So I have to step back and say, okay, what absolutely needs to be done? That's one thing. So a list of things that have to get done. And then I actually break it down into priorities. And you can choose to do it either way. You can list your priorities and then the tasks, or you can do the tasks and then put A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, whatever, the priorities, so that at the end of the day, you actually can feel like you have accomplished something, so you are empowered. I mean, it's kind of a cliche word. Empowered it's really my word, but it's become kind of cliche. And so we have to take it out of this kind of ethereal feeling type of scenario to action steps. And that's what you and I, Leslie, talked about. And that's what we want to share today.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. You know, the first thing that I want to kind of add in this whole like motherhood and business is it's not about perfection. It's a practice. And I liken it to yoga. I go to yoga. I do it on a weekly basis. I have no problem going downward dog to flip the thing and all that stuff. I can't keep track of what they're named, but I do it, right? And I do it. Some days I'm more graceful at it than others. That's a bit of what this is like to me, is it's a practice, and it's having certain key strategies to go back to. So the one that you were just, describing is one that I did this morning, because this morning, we've got a big project. We've got a big trip. Kids are going to camp coming up, they're home, and I'm not getting enough stuff done. So of course I feel like, oh my gosh, more. And I sat here and it really was a case of, I said, okay, my youngest is 10 and the hormones are kicking in. Lovely. And we are having lots of fun, but I know he needs my attention more. And I know that we're about to be separated because he's going to camp. So I know I have to pour into him now. And I looked at it and I said, well, this is a client week for me. I have weeks where I have clients and then I have a week off, so to speak. This is a client week with me. So I have even less flexibility. That means I'm not going to get as much done. It just means that I'm not, especially if I pour into my kids. And I only get the way I always look at it is I only get who they are today. I only get who they are today. Now, that doesn't mean that they get me all the time, but I keep that in mind to when they need me, I pour into that. So I did my list this morning. I was like, okay, what has to happen before Friday? What has to happen before Friday? What
has to happen today?
What has to happen today? The blab was something that had to happen today. So I had to do that. And that was
we managed that. I'm so proud of us.
But I had a lot of little piddly stuff on there too. So I didn't have a lot of time to dedicate to something to get into it and complete it. So I was doing all the piddly stuff because that just made me feel good to just scratch stuff off the darn list.
And it can be small items.
And they all were. You know what I had to do? You'll love one of my items, because camp has theme nights. Okay. I had to glue fur onto a gladiator's helmet.
I love it. You need to post a picture of that.
I shall. I'll go dig it out of the box. That was one of my to-dos. Scratched it off the list. It's silly. It's small, but I feel better, for it. So there's a couple of things here is we all feel the need to be productive and get things done and be like, yes, you did it. And when you walk around if you could see the table I'm sitting at, it's totally not clean. When you see that stuff, they're reminders of what you haven't done. But when you actually can compile a list and organize it a little bit, at least at the end of the day, you can say, but at least I got that done. It's a complete shift from this kind of corporate environment of busy, to reality of what it's like to be a woman, a mother, and in business, if that's what you are, or just, sometimes a woman and a mother is hard enough some days. We won't even, that's why the movie Bad Moms come out, and I think it's going to be great. I know half of my school went on the opening night. It was hilarious. But you could see like this whole thing of we build in the expectation to be perfect, and it's okay to be a bad mom. I mean, that's really kind of, and they were using it tongue in cheek, you know, I'm a bad mom because I make my kids make their own breakfast. I was like, well, heck, I've been doing that for years.
It's like, pick your battles, people, right? But, you know,
but that's why Pop-Tarts were invented.
I mean, you can put it truly, I think we can kind of nail this down to literally the ABCs. Okay, so let's take A. You can have the accomplishments that you have to accomplish. And there are action steps for those.
Make those happen.
Right? So there's the blissful part of it, but you have to address the business. Right?
Yep.
And then on the C's, you have to compartmentalize and make that cohesive. Mm-hmm. So it truly is the ABC. So, and Leslie, because you and I talked earlier, you and I both understand, I was feeling very alone and overwhelmed. And you shared with me that you were too. So we know that there's many of us, and I was extremely vulnerable with you. And that's not necessarily easy because we're supposed to have the answers.
Yeah.
And I just said to you, listen, motherhood and bliss and, you know, easy ways to make the business work, that's not always true. But here are steps you can take. Yeah. Let's list the accomplishments that you need to do in order of priority.
I want to piggyback on that. Is you got to go back and look at that damn list because you don't realize what you're getting done.
Look at that damn list.
You do have to look at the damn list. Sorry, I'm getting a little.
Yeah, you have to make the list. No, it's true.
And also go back at the end of the day and realize it. I mean, I was having a conversation 2 weeks ago with somebody, and they're like, "Well, what have you been working on?" And I felt like going, "Well, not much." Da, 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 da.
Right.
And then I was like, "Wait a minute. I have a project that I've been working on with this partner. It launches on the 18th. I have another project I've been working on with this partner. It launches in September. I've been able to do X, Y, and Z." I was like, I had to sit there and force myself to do the list. Because it's the same thing. When you always see there's how much there is left to do, you don't realize what you have accomplished and what you did. So yes, do your list, do your task oriented, make your priorities, shuffle it for your day. You know, if you've got time to dig deep, dig deep. If you don't have time, then whack out all the little whack-a-moles. And,
and those like constantly pop back up. Remember that. Whack. That is a lesson.
It is a lesson.
Those whack-a-moles pop back up. You can pop them down, and they're going to come back up.
You just
you need a whack-a-mole thing.
That's one, the organizational part of it, but use it as a celebration tool as much as I just need to get crap done kind of a tool. So go to your point 2 there, because I want to.
On which one? I'm sorry.
So after we've done the list, we've done the kind of organized. I think there's also, go ahead.
Well, I would say if that's the A, which is the action steps and what you need to, I would say accomplishment first. So literally to break it down, ABC. Accomplishments.
Yep.
Then on the other side of the sheet of accomplishments is the action steps for that, right? Mm-hmm. And then prioritizing those. Okay, it doesn't start with A, but you have to do that in order to make that happen. The second part, and you can kind of balance which one comes first. But if we talk about the bliss, what is going to get you to bliss for your business? Mm-hmm. So on the business aspect, I believe, and Leslie, you can speak to this as well, if you're just spinning your wheels and just being busy, another B, but it's not getting you to where you need to be for your A items, your action steps and your accomplishments, then it's BS.
It is BS. There's a lot in business that we heap onto our plate that we just don't need. And even, I've shared this before on the show. This would be my 3rd summer of having the boys not in dedicated camps or whatever from 8 to 6 or whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's by choice, and there's nothing wrong with it if that's what you need to do. But I'm speaking as my own experience, there has been definitely a learning curve to that.
Isn't that the truth?
Oh, Lord.
With each age, by the way.
Yeah, because every year's different. Every day is different. We can't have 2 days the same. I might get used to something. I don't know about that. But like last year, I dialed back too much.
Gotcha.
I know I enjoyed it, and I had a great summer, but I dried my business up because I wasn't doing enough marketing. I wasn't preparing for future sales. I wasn't focused enough on what it is. So this summer, that's something I'm trying to compensate for, but it's that give and take. And you do have to, I've noticed even in the last week, especially, I was like, what am I doing? I'm just sitting here on the computer. I'm not being effective. If I don't get too effective now, I need to get up. Like, this is the inner conversation I have with myself.
Totally. And that's the business part. You're thinking business and you're focusing on that. And that's the good thing. Then, so you can reevaluate what's working and what's not.
But you know what? Why we sit there and we get distracted by Facebook, we get distracted by all these other things, is because we're looking for an outlet. We're looking for a break. But we don't get our butts up from the computer and go take a break. Now, Maria and I were talking earlier, and I told her Saturday morning I had a laundry list. I have a lot to do to get ready for a few things. And I sat down to read a book because I knew that if I had been daydreaming on the computer meant that I needed a break, and I needed it away from people. I'm an introvert. No,
but I think that's a key point, because we have to take the signals from ourselves. And this is not emotion based. This is legitimate, psychological, chemical, how you operate. And Leslie, you and I talked about, because I was feeling so overwhelmed because I was putting too much pressure on myself because I wasn't identifying my priorities. So I was feeling like a failure in every area. And at the end of the day, that I was a complete mess. Not a literal mess, but just I was feeling I wasn't measuring up anywhere. So what I started to do, and Leslie, you and I talked about this, I was shutting down. Like, my brain was shutting down and not wanting to function because I wasn't feeding it the tips, tools, and techniques to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about here is that I think, to me, especially if you're that business owner or entrepreneur, I call it almost a kiss of death, is busy. And whenever you say, well, I'm just so busy, that to me is like, ooh, red flag, red flag, red flag. It's something that we have to take back in and look at what we're doing, because we're not being productive. We're not, doing what is absolutely critical for our business. And in such, everything suffers. It really does when you get wrapped up.
It really does, ourselves most of all. But you can be a professional at just nothingness. So that goes back to that identifying the priorities. And then let's talk about C, ABC. Let's talk about C. And you and I both said it. And what's funny,
at the same time this morning,
at the exact same time, is
compartmentalization.
We have to compartmentalize it, and we have to take care of ourselves at the same time. Compartmentalizing it is taking care of you. So sometimes and I happen to be a mother of multiples, right? So when we talked about this, you said it's like having multiple children. And I said, well, I can understand because I have multiples. So it's like, okay, here is your self and self-care. Here's your marriage care. Here's your professional care. Here's your child care, not literal, but taking care of your children. And that's where the C comes in, of caring, but compartmentalizing, because and I shared this story of you when the boys were babies, infants. My husband was gone, so I was on hand, doing the daily tasks of taking care of them, right? And I remember specifically, and even up until 5 or 6 years old, and it changes as their age changes, but that I would specifically take out 10 minutes a day to try and spend a little bit of time one-on-one with each of them. I didn't have an hour. I didn't have a day. I didn't have a whole night for a date night with each of them, but I could do 10 minutes. And that kind of is a segue into our business, because it's a luxury and a curse if you are a work-at-home mom. It's a different set of challenges, but the kids are home. You don't have an office a lot of times, but if you're a work-at-home mom, obviously, you're staying there. And a lot of times the kids are at home, whatever. You may not necessarily have from 8 to 8 or 8 to 5 or whatever it is at one solid period of time, but you may have 90 minutes here, or an hour here, or after the kids are in bed, right? So it is a different set of challenges, but you can make it work.
Well, and there's a couple of things in here. I bring up the idea to college to me. And here's how I explain it when I'm explaining time management is you almost have to go back to college to have all this work. Because if you think about college, you had course classes maybe at 9, maybe one at 1. You went and worked from, 11 to 2, whatever it was. And every day looked a little bit different. But it was a flow. You kind of flowed in and out of things, right?
Yeah.
And as a whole, you made sure you should have, but you made sure you had time to study. I made sure I had time to go out. I have made sure
that was Thursday night happy hour. That was Thursday night happy hour, right?
What a Friday 8 a.m. class. You knew better, right? I know this is silly, but this is what I'm talking about. This is that shift of being an entrepreneur and a mom is you have to go back to being in college when it comes to your concept of time. It is not about getting a gold star because you're at your computer from 8 to 5 and you never get up and you don't do anything. That's not the gold star.
Well, that's just not reality.
No, I don't know anybody that can do that. If it's I've got on my calendar, I've got to take a boy to some place, or we've got karate or Taekwondo lessons tonight, and some days it's like I've got drum lessons to get to, and it's a flow. And I think that's the whole thing about this compartmentalizes is that you're giving everything that you're doing the opportunity to move along the attention without excluding something or letting the ball completely drop. But some days that means it's a little bit of time. Some days that means it's a lot of time. But
and you're right, because that's what's hard. I know for how I'm wired, and Leslie, I think you too. And many people is that, okay, once you can get in the zone and focus, then you're full on.
Yeah.
So the trade-off is that we get time with our kids and we can do our responsibilities and things we need to do, or, we hire out if we have to, right? Or we ask
no
another.
Shame in that.
No shame. No shame.
In that.
Or we say, I can't take this conference call right now because I've got to get my child to this meeting or to practice. And I love that you just said that, because there should be no shame. The thing is from day to day, it's so different.
Yes, it is so different.
But I think you have to take, so that you don't get that sense of overwhelm. And I say this almost not tongue in cheek, but I'm almost talking out of two sides of my mouth, because I was feeling very overwhelmed this morning. Mm-hmm. And I called you and I said, Leslie, here's where I am. And that's why I was very vulnerable, and I was very genuine, and I was very fired up. Because I'm like, just can't feel overwhelmed every day.
Yeah.
I am setting myself up to fail. But I don't have to, nor does anyone else, because you can take it back to the ABCs. Take it back to, and Leslie, you'll post this, I can post this too, but take it back to the action steps, to your accomplishments that you need. Take it back to the bliss and the business. Take it back to the compartmentalizing and what you need to do, because you have to look at your priorities. And I mean, let's go back to business. You have to look at your mission statement, your business strategy, your revenue streams. You have to look at the things to run a business, much like you do running a home.
Yeah.
But you're turning it into those business elements. So please don't underestimate yourself or think you can't do it, because you probably already are.
You probably already are. And this element of compartmentalizing, there's a benefit in there. There's this benefit of being present. I think one of the greatest gifts I could give to myself, and probably one of the greatest gifts any of us can give ourselves, is to be present. And when you compartmentalize, if you think about this, if you're with your children, be with your children. If you're working on your business, work on your business.
Yeah.
The mommy guilt that gets pulled in is when
that's so pervasive. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But it happens so much when you aren't where you need to be because you're thinking about something else. And then you get to that something else and you're thinking you should be back here. The compartmentalization, the gift of that is don't try to multitask it. I mean, honestly, if I walk in, I'm like, okay, I need to go spend 30 minutes with Christian because I know that's what he needs so that I can have the time I need over here.
Right.
The phone rings. I don't get up to get it. I just don't, and it's this whole kind of case. And you mentioned, not taking a conference call and things like that. That's exactly what I do. And I say, unfortunately, I'm not available at that time, but I can be available at this time. I'm not telling you that I've just dropped off my children and that gives me enough time to get back to my office.
And we don't have to make excuses.
You don't have to make
You have to, what are your priorities? We talked about two things, Leslie, I want to talk about before we get off. Yeah. We talked about Superwoman or super mom versus empowered mom. The other thing is what you just said is about the compartmentalizing. You can think of it like yoga, and you can talk to this. It's a practice.
It's a practice.
It's just that we don't have the ability or the time or the luxury to spend 7 hours uninterrupted on one item. Typically, I don't typically, unless I don't sleep, which then isn't self-care, right?
No, it makes a very hard day the next day.
Right. Leslie, will you share the proverb with everyone that you shared with me about the bamboo?
I will. So it's something that, and it's actually, I saw it once and I'm going to completely misquote it, but I love the essence of it. And it talks about taking on the strength of bamboo, and that bamboo is very strong and firmly grounded. And that when you have that same kind of strength and firmly grounded, but you allow for flexibility of blowing in the wind. So if you think of bamboo, it's very tall, it's very hard, it's very useful, but it sways. And when it sways, it's not broken. It just blows in the wind. And I think in a lot of ways, that's one of the philosophies I look at my life is I have boundaries. I have goals that I'm trying to get for, do I want to be a bigger business than I am? Yes. But do I also understand that the balance right now doesn't exactly allow for that? Yes. And that's my flexibility to say, okay, today's not my day, but I know it's coming. My kids aren't always going to be at this stage that they're at. We shift. Mine are 10 and 11. So we are getting into the teenage years, and I know that's going to shift all again.
Sure. But we shift as women.
Yeah, we shift as women.
In our life stages.
But I think it's that whole, it talks to have your goals in mind, have your intention in mind, just be flexible about the execution of it, and
because it's a moving target. It's an ebb and flow.
Yeah. And I'll have business owners talk to me about, well, how do you handle a sick kid? And I'm like, I shut the business down. That's just what I do, because I find that I'm too anxious and guilty if I try to do both. But I have to work with a lot
delegate.
Of moms.
Yeah, I mean, you have to just
right. I work with a lot of moms to where if that happens, it's not a big deal. That's why I love working with women, because we're all like, get it. I'm good. I can see you next Thursday.
Yeah, but I would say don't give up.
Yeah.
If you can't, and Leslie has shared this with you, I want to give 100% over here, but I also want to give 100% over here. And guess what? That's just not realistic.
No.
I mean, you can't be super mom. You can be the empowered mom.
Yeah.
And you can take the steps that you and I have talked about, because I was feeling very alone. You were feeling very alone. And when I opened up and you opened up, there's millions of women and mothers that are feeling this way. And we would love to hear from you about the things that work for you, the things that don't work for you, because we don't always have the answers. We may have the answers for today, but guess what? The things that we need to do for tomorrow may look totally different.
Completely different. And the important thing to understand, and I think this is it, yes, as entrepreneurs, we're not talking to each other enough. We are not in that fully abundant space of saying, dude, we are all in it together. Let's huddle up. Let's figure it out. And there's always this fear of judgment. Well, first off, if you've got judgment, you can find a friend to fill that space.
Well, they don't need to be a friend, right? If somebody's judging you, move on.
But the people that are all here trying to get to the same goal, that are, open up, because there's so much, like we said at the beginning of it, there's so much to this that is just going to happen. And it happens to all of us. It may not look exactly the same, and the solution might not be exactly the same, but you won't ever light onto your solution, your personal solution, until you've talked to somebody else. I'm an aggregator, I guess, is a little bit. I love hearing how people handle things, because I glean, and I'm a very situation. I'm like, what would I do in that case? And I will go, I think I would have done this. And if I get into that situation, I feel better prepared. I feel better to say, this is how I can handle this, because I've talked to people, I've listened to people, I've helped, I've fed into people, or if I don't know, I know who to. Holy cow, what a crappy day. Tell me what I did. What did I do wrong? Because I'm oblivious.
Because we can't have the whole world on our shoulders, and we do in many ways, but we have to reach out and connect. And like I had to say, I don't have all the answers. And when you're growing a business and when you're running a business, it's an evolution. I mean, it changes. How it started and what your goals were over here, or what you thought it looked like. Yeah. It's like a child. It changes and grows, and it has its own personalities, and there's evolutions and there's changes, and you have to change along with it, and you kind of have to redirect your sails. Yeah. And so I would say too, I mean, remember the ABCs. Remember those very basic principles when you're feeling so overwhelmed. And trust me, I spent the last several days feeling it. I feel better now having shared this with you, Leslie, and then having shared it with everyone else, because then it's not a burden. I'm like, okay, I'm human. And exactly. And we're not super moms, we're empowered moms, right? But we can separate the feeling from the actual, okay, here's the ABCs, action steps, the business and bliss, and the compartmentalizing and everything else that really can take away just kind of this ethereal, oh, I'm not enough, I'm not measuring up, and this anxiety, to action steps. And at the end of the day, you're like, okay, this met my priority. Or okay, I didn't quite do that, so I have to adjust that. But you don't end up feeling depleted. You can feel exhausted.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
But you can feel empowered at the end of the day.
Yeah, you can feel like you did the best you could do with the day that you had.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, some days that's all you can ask for. And I love, the ABCs of it, because that makes it a system. And time and time again, people fight systems. And I think even in my early 20s, maybe when I was starting to think about a family, I did that little research of how are people like Heidi Klum doing it? How are they? Now, granted, they've got a lot of money. They can hire a lot of help. But when I went out and researched it, they have a schedule. They have a schedule, and it's all planned out. And does it happen all the time? No, but they just get back onto the schedule because it's a system that works.
Right. Don't reinvent the wheel. I mean,
you don't have to think about it on the days where you're like, you just do the system. And
you just look at what needs. You look at what needs to get done, and that's it. At the end of the day, can you be everywhere and do everything? No. So let go of that.
Stop trying.
Exactly. But there are so many action steps that you can take to empower yourself, to build yourself up, to build your family up, to build your relationship up, to build your kids up. And I said that very specifically because I didn't put ourselves last.
Yeah. You've got to fill yourself up. If you are directing and moving mountains, which is really what we're doing. We're moving mountains. We're building individuals, we're building family.
Well,
we are moving a mountain, but you can't move a mountain if you have no muscle left to move.
And like you said, you have to be like the bamboo. You have to be flexible. It doesn't look the same every single day. But as far as the business aspects go, really define your mission statement, define your passion, define what it's going to take for you to do it so that you don't end up feeling like a failure. There are very specific steps you can take that will empower you. Think of the ABCs.
Yep. And that's priceless. Well, Maria, thank you so much for joining us. I have just loved all of our conversation today.
Me too.
And I hope our listeners are getting lots of good thanks for that. Christopher saying really good show. I know we didn't do too much Q&A today.
I know, but we will. We can do it again.
Yeah, but Maria can be found over at The Empowered Mom. Now she's birthing a new baby, new website, new stuff coming.
Not literally, people. Not from my uterus, all right? Just saying.
From the brain. From the brain and the heart. There we go. But so be sure to check her out. And, as always, it's an entrepreneurship journey. Don't know that we ever get to a destination. It is just a new journey every day. So take a deep breath.
Let's just do that all together, can we?
That felt so good. Ready?
That does. And, I will say, there's so much happening. I know, Leslie, there's so much happening with you as well. And there's so many exciting things happening with The Empowered Mom. You can look for The Empowered Mom television segments and radio segments, which we are unveiling nationwide. But also, there's opportunity to be on the Empowered Mom spotlight, and whether that's as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner. And then we're also looking for highlighting content developers or content sharers, if you will, that I can use to elevate you on all of the platforms that we have built. So just get in contact with me at theempoweredmom.com or Maria at theempoweredmom.com, or of course through Leslie.
on the show notes over at yourbizrules.com. So that's it for today. Be sure to join us back in 2 weeks for our next show. We're going to talk about building business and getting more great clients, always a popular topic. And I'll have my guest, Mark McWinney, over from the Coaching Jungle. So that'll be a lot of fun there.
Don't miss it. Y'all don't miss that.
No, I love great conversations. It's the whole reason I do this show is because I already have these great conversations.
And y'all get in touch with Leslie. She is amazing. She has got such valuable information, and she is just a spark plug of action.
Thank you. Why, thank you.
That's not paid, by the way, people.
No payment.
That's legit, genuine.
Well, I am going to call the show to a close. Be sure to leave comments, give us shout outs. If you liked what you heard today, I'd love to hear it. And I always share with our guests too, because you know what? We need the feedback too. That's how we know we're on the right track.
Absolutely.
And we're actually providing value for you. So don't be afraid to let us know what you think. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk with you soon.